What's up? Welcome back to Schwalb Stories, everybody. Thanks for tuning back in. Sorry we've been spotty. Like I said, I really want to try to make these happen every single Monday, but life gets hard, life gets busy, gotta work. And yeah, we're just trying to keep up at this point. But we have a fresh one coming out for you today, and it's actually kind of an interesting one because in the past, my buddy Tanner Sachs came on here and talked about different fins that he's ridden, what his experiences are, and why the templates of fins has changed over the years. One type of fin has always been tried and true. It's the Almeric, the Channel Islands fin. It features a smaller trailing fin, not by much, but only slightly. But my basic two sets of fins that I always ride are the Channel Islands, which are these guys, or the Timmy Patterson set, which are a smaller profile fin all around, but they're all consistently the same size, the trailing fin to the two front fins. So that being said, what Tanner's theory was, and what made sense to me as well, is over the years, tail rocker has increased on standard shortboards. So that being said, as tail rocker increases, you want your back fin to get longer so that you still have the same amount of drive and the same amount of propulsion. Right? A smaller trailing fin will still work, but you might get a little bit more slide out of your board, which typically people don't like. They want a drivey shortboard. So that being said, if you go back to the past where the tail rockers are pretty flat, you shrink that trailing fin, you'll get a lot more pivot while having the same amount of drive. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because historically I've been riding the Timmy Patterson set in this board. It's a hand shape that I made, it's been, I think, a couple weeks at this point, but I've ridden it a bunch with the Timmy fins, and it was fine. It was a little tracky at times and kind of weird. So today I'm actually going to test Tanner's theory, and I'm going to throw in the Channel Islands set. We're going to go surf our local wave. You know where it is. Don't put it in the comments, please. And we're going to go test these fins out and see kind of what the difference is. So follow along. I'll meet you guys back right here, and we're going to go over what I felt, why I felt it, and how it went. So, see you in a sec. All right, so we're back. It was actually a really fun trout. It wasn't too crowded. A couple of the local guys are out, and you got to pay respect to those guys. But we had some fun. We got some good waves. There was also some features of Noah Albrecht, and Crowbar as well was out there. So it was overall a pretty fun session. But let's jump right into it. So first things first, it felt 10 out of 10 times better than before with the Timmy Patterson set. So, you know, with the Timmy Patterson set, like I said, sometimes it was kind of tracky. It was hard to draw a nice tight line. The board is 6'1". The width, I think, is about 19 inches wide, maybe 18.88, somewhere in that ballpark. And I know for a fact the thickness is 2.5. So that being said, it's a longer board than I typically ride. My typical size board is a 5'11", which is something like this guy right here, the Infinity board that I've been riding pretty often. Or my Alley Rat from Timmy, or, you know, typically it's 5'11", just leave it at that. So that being said, the 6'1", the reason I made this board is because I have a 6'1" from Timmy that I really, really like. But I just kind of wanted to tweak some things and make it a little bit better for smaller waves. Not that I'm a better shaper than Timmy, it's just, I tried. So that being said, I took measurements off the Timmy, put it on this board, and did my own rail, my own rocker profile, and yada, yada, yada. But what ended up happening is the tail of the board is really flat because it's hard to add rocker to the tail because I'm not a very experienced surfboard builder. So I don't really know exactly what I'm doing. But that being said, the tail of the board is really flat. So I think that promotes a trackier type of board because there's not a lot of curve back there to draw those lines that you want to draw. So that being said, when I switched over to these Channel Island fins, it instantly drew a tighter line and it held a lot better. So the Timmy fins were kind of tracky and kind of hard to get through a turn. And when you did get it on rail, it would just kind of slide out. So I think that is the reason for that is because these front fins on the CI set are a lot bigger profile than the Timmy set. But the trailing fin is smaller, so it's not going to be as tracky. It's going to loosen the board up a lot. But overall, the thing felt insane. You know, it just made the board a lot more lively, a lot more fun. And, you know, there's obviously some things I need to work on with the board, actual like foam part of the board. But the reason I don't play around with fins too much is because I want to get the foam to work well for the fin. We all know that the John Florence fin is great and the Timmy fin is awesome, and there's plenty of case examples for that. But the tricky part is matching the type of fin to the type of surfboard. So that's where I picked two fins that I know that I like, the CI and the Timmy, and I've stuck to that for the last probably, I don't even know, like 10 years or something. So I don't change that much. I just try to keep the boards in line with the fin because, like I said, the fins are tried and true. So when you're developing boards, like I've worked on boards with Timmy Patterson and now with Dave Bainey over at Infinity, I know the fins aren't the problem. Sometimes it's just the foam. So, but that's not to say the board's not going to work for somebody else with a different fin template and different weight and yada, yada, yada. But the more variables that you can keep in line and keep controlled, the better. So that being said, overall the board worked a lot better, changing the fin template out. If you have a flatter tail rocker board, actually let's start with this. If you have a board and you don't know if the tail rocker is very steep or very flat, get two boards, go to a surf shop, bring the board in there with you or something, lay them next to each other and kind of look at the way the tail bends. I like to hold it like this and look straight down at it. And you can kind of see it doesn't curve much. It's obviously hard to show it on the video, so I'm sorry. But I'll hold this board and kind of look at the tail of it, right? And then grab a different board, hold it in the exact same spot in the exact same way, and look at the tail curve of that. And that'll kind of tell you whether your tail rocker is flatter or steeper. Same thing with the nose. You can kind of gauge what that is as well. But nose rocker we'll talk about a different time. So today it's just about fins and tail rocker. So if you're struggling on a board and you feel like it's probably a little tracky or a little too slidey or whatever the case may be, but it's a dumpster diver from Channel Islands and you think the thing's awesome and you know that people ride those boards and they definitely work, check out your tail rocker, look at your fins, see if there's something you need to change. And take this theory and go test it yourself. So that's kind of all I got for you guys today. Thanks everyone for tuning back in. Like I said, I want to be better about doing these every single week, but life's busy, dude. You know how it is. So yeah, tune back in next week. Hopefully we got another one cooking up for you guys, and I'll try to be a little bit more on top of it. I appreciate all the support, all the comments. Love to see it, love to hear it. Let's start a community, let's start a movement. And also, if you haven't seen yet, Race-Trac just dropped some new merch. They got a t-shirt that I'm not wearing at the moment, but they also got this beanie. Check this thing out. It's just got these little flags on it right here. They're embroidered into the blank. So it's a very comfy, very nice fitting beanie. It's super warm for these rainy days. And I mean, we're going into summer. I don't know why they did that, but it is a comfy beanie. So everyone could use another. So go check out Race-Trac. I'll link it down below. For now, like, comment, subscribe, share it to your buddy. Drop a comment if you've had some experience with fins or know some things that I don't about fins. I'm always learning, and I'll catch you guys next week. Peace.